organization focused on education, training, and support, connecting we the people with each other and with our elected officials like the Sheriff of El Dorado County. Today we'll hear from a number of well-known speakers. Joe Banister, a former IRS special agent and now a whistleblower. Sean O'Connor, a federal farmer and lecturer on federal law. Debbie Bacalupi, an advocate for private property rights. And our own Sheriff John DeAugustini as he receives his Constitutional Acknowledgement Award. Our first speaker today is Joe Banister, a former IRS Criminal Investigation Division Special Agent, well known for his Agent of Truth radio talk show, which airs every Saturday morning. He is the founder of Freedom Above Fortune, an organization dedicated to the concept that no amount of real or perceived economic prosperity, the fortune part, is worth trading away your liberty. If you are willing to sell your freedom for short-term financial security, real or perceived, the willingness is to sell your own very soul is not very far behind. Joe Banister learned of a series of constitutional questions related to the federal income tax and the federal banking and monetary system. His expertise is in the field of accounting and financing and taxation and law enforcement enabled him to not only understand these complex laws, but that he realized he could play a role in bringing the issues to the public arena for analysis and debate. I'd like to introduce to you today Mr. Joe Banister.
How's everybody doing?
Great.
Great. You can hear me all right?
Yes.
Excellent. Well, I got to keep an eye on the clock because I don't want to step on the next speakers. So I might kind of flip through this quickly. But I called this the talk Favorite Fed Enemy of the State in 11 Years Flat because it was from 1993 until 2004 that I went from a sworn federal law enforcement officer to being indicted for conspiring to defraud the United States of America. So an interesting 11-year period. I'm going to try to go through that and more in the short time that I have. This is our class t-shirt, the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center. I was elected president of the class and collected all the money for the shirt. I'm your worst nightmare, an accountant with a gun. And that's what IRS special agents are known for. They carry a gun and a badge, but do mostly financial tax, money laundering investigations. Sworn in November 1993. That was my business card. My first boss got really mad that I put CPA after my name. He said, "Joe, you're not a CPA anymore. You're a special agent in the IRS, and you don't need to be referring to yourself as a CPA any longer." I thought they were compatible, but apparently he didn't think so. I'm not a CPA anymore, so I'm not trying to mislead anybody, but I was at that time. That's back in 1996, 1997. Oh, thank you for the lights.
Okay?
Yeah, that's great. This is at the East Palo Alto Citizens Police Academy. And there's a little blonde-haired lady there and a brunette right there. And I'm doing a firearm simulation. This is, well, back in $97, that's a $60,000 piece of equipment called a FATS machine, Firearms Training Simulator. That's a 6-hour 9mm, but the barrel was gutted out and the laser was put in. So everything but the guts is a real 6-hour 9mm. And then there's that little black cord that comes down. That's so that the slide will actually cycle on the gun. So they make it as realistic as possible. And then you have a screen just like this that you're shooting at, and the laser will register your shots. Like boom, boom, boom. So you'll have a good guy, bad guy scenario, and if you shoot a good guy, or a bad guy, because I was, you get in big trouble. So we were teaching the citizens about how difficult it is to not only carry a gun, but know when to use it. And because they would say, well, why don't you just shoot the gun out of the crook's hand? And so we said, well, here's the gun, give it a try. And so that kind of taught him a valuable lesson. So that was part of the fun, the enjoyment of the job. This is my family. It's a pretty old picture. My father passed away just before I went into the IRS. But that's my brother John. He's now lieutenant in California Highway Patrol. Baby brother Jeff. He's a San Jose police officer. My mom Ann in the middle. Jim. He's the battalion chief in the Daly City Fire Department. And then there's the pencil neck guy, me, with the treasury badge. And so, next time they say that we're all a bunch of knuckle-dragging mountain dwellers who are anti-government, you can see I came from one of the top training camps. That's my uncle, my deceased dad's brother, 30 years with the Santa Clara County Sheriff's Office. And then, again, the government likes to talk about people like, well, they're a numbskull, they don't know what they're talking about. Well, I was in training, I did earn 95% academic average. Selected class president of both training classes. Received various commendations. So my pre-enlightenment days at the IRS, when I went in there in 1993, I expected to spend a full 20-year career with the Internal Revenue Service. They have a criminal investigation division, and that's staffed with about 3,000 special agents. So they're criminal investigators, just like an FBI agent or Secret Service agent or an ICE agent. It's a GS 1811 series, so carry a gun, handcuffs, all that good stuff. But the focus is on income tax, money laundering, and financial crimes. So I was promoted to the highest non-level management position, grade 13, before the 5-year anniversary of employment. Received Superior Performance Award, sustained Superior Performance Award. And this isn't about Love Me Joe, but just trying to show you some of the things that I did there. I didn't just have my feet up on the desk. Asset Forfeiture Coordinator, Organized Crime Drug Enforcement Task Force Coordinator, Firearms Coordinator. So it looks like a rewarding career. I can spend a full 20 years at the IRS and really enjoy my time there. So the enlightenment process begins. You might be too far away to hear KSFO. You got KSTE here, don't you? And those are sundry stations. But I was listening to KSFO back in 1996. This would have been about 3 years into my career as an IRS special agent. A host named Jeff Metcalf, who I think used to be on KSTE years ago. He had a guest DB Kid on his show, and she was making this claim that most Americans aren't required by law to pay the federal income tax. So you can imagine that I'm driving around in my government car, and it's got your regular AM, FM radio, and so I'm listening to the show if I'm driving to various places in my investigations, and I'm hearing this woman on the radio, and I'm thinking, she's saying, well, the income tax is voluntary, it's not required, and I've got my 6-hour on my hip, and my handcuffs, and my bulletproof vest in the trunk, and I'm like, lady, this tax ain't voluntary. But I listened to Jeff Metcalf for a number of years before this, and he was a very credible person. He wasn't partisan, Republicans are always right, Democrats are always wrong. He was about the Constitution, and he seemed like a very honorable guy. He served in the military. And then he has this, kooky lady on the show saying that there's a problem with the income tax. And here I am, a sworn federal law enforcement officer, concentrating on income tax issues, and I'm hearing these claims. So, as a trained investigator, what should I do if I have any conscience or integrity? Well, I use my investigative training and actually just try to hunt down the truth. So, as you might imagine, federal investigators, actually any investigator, you use the phone a lot more than you use your gun. And so I started getting on the phone and calling these people, because this DB Kid, the woman who was the guest, she would actually put addresses and phone numbers of the various people that were making these claims about the income tax, the Federal Reserve, New World Order, all kinds of stuff. Well, I focused mostly on the income tax to start, but it kind of came to find out they're all related, duh. I also figured out that I did a degree from San Jose State University, passed the CPA exam, became a CPA, had all kinds of training in the IRS. And yet there was so much that was, all the foundational income tax material was glossed over. We really didn't talk about the foundations of it, or actually look at the Internal Revenue Code or the Code of Federal Regulations. We would just look at training material, pamphlets, things that already presumed that you owed the income tax. So what happened was, it was December of '96 when I was listening to the talk radio show. I spent all of 1997 and all of 1998 researching and investigating these claims that I heard on the radio that day. And my expectation, if I had a bias anywhere, it was that this woman's got to be a kook. I guess I can't read people's demeanors and their integrity very well over the radio, because Jeff Metcalf must have fooled me. He's actually a charlatan, and he has charlatans on his show, and it's one or the other. So my bias was like, there's got to be something wrong with these claims. But after 2 years of the best investigation and research that I could apply to it, and this is being a certified public accountant, trained by the IRS to carry a pen and badge around even on airplanes, all kinds of training, and I think I had a reasonable modicum of knowledge about the subject. And after 2 years of off-duty research, I'd take days off, I'd do weekends, make my whole family crazy by getting home from work after a 10-hour day and half-hour commute, and then hit the books again and try to get to the bottom of this. Because as I showed you that picture, I took an oath to support and defend the Constitution, and I took the oath very seriously. And I thought that there's a real problem here, or at least there's some confusion, and I need to resolve it for myself, because I needed to continue to honor that oath. So at the end of the 2-year period, throughout '97 and '98, it came to be January-February timeframe of 1999, and I decided that I needed to pull together the highlights, not everything that I had seen by far, but pull together the highlights of what I had found and put it into a report, an investigative report. And in the report, there were 3 allegations. Constitutional limitations: most Americans are not required to file income tax returns and pay income tax. 16th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution was never legally ratified. And the U.S. government finances its operations from the creation of fiat money, not with revenue from income taxes. I gave a transmittal letter along with this report to my immediate IRS supervisors. I was working in the San Jose, California office. I was hired in San Francisco and transferred down to San Jose, which was my hometown. And pretty long letter. This is available on my website, agentfortruth.com. But I said here in the letter that accompanied the report, if the service declines to conduct its own analysis or dismisses the evidence in this report without proper review, then I must tender my resignation. My oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States is made to God, and I cannot serve 2 masters. Well, the response I got wasn't exactly warm. I don't have time to go into the conversations that went on, but basically it culminated in a memorandum from my chief. They're called Special Agents in Charge now, or SACs, but chief was what that position was called in the 90s. And the Internal Revenue Service will not be responding to your request and will provide you with the necessary paperwork to tender your resignation. So this is someone who I showed you what I had accomplished and was what I thought a pretty hard charger. Everyone else thought so too. But this is the response I get to very sincere concerns about it. And it wasn't like I went to the newspapers or made a big deal about it. This was all just, hey, according to the commissioner, we're supposed to report any incidences of fraud, waste, or abuse. And so here I am. I'd like to discuss these things so that I can go on with my job and know that I'm abiding by my oath. And they didn't see it that way. So again, in this truncated time frame, you're going to hear more from my good friend Sean O'Connor, who will go into more detail. I met Sean during this period of 1997 to 1998, where the government told me that, oh, these people that investigate these tax issues, they're all kooks,
Yep.
they don't know what they're talking about, and I didn't find that at all. I mean, there are kooks out there, but you know, I think the government broad brushes so that no one will listen, no one will look at the evidence, and I decided that I had a duty to look at the evidence. But anyway, Sean will go into a little more detail as well. But just to give you a sample of the conclusions, the average working American is not liable to pay federal income tax. And those of you that have not done any research on it, I invite you to do so. I'll give you some websites at the end where you can look into it for yourself about the importance, the critical foundational importance of being liable for a tax before you're required to keep records, file a tax return, and pay a tax. And this is not a sales pitch to get you to all take on the IRS. Okay, this is just my job really is to infect the jury pool, so that people stop going to jail over this for not paying a tax if they didn't know. So, you know, does the IRS agree that you must be liable before being required to file a tax return? Well, in the 1040 instruction booklet, there's something called the Disclosure, Privacy Act, and Paperwork Reduction Act notice. You can go to the library and get it yourself. I mean, you have something in your stack of stuff you haven't read, and check out that notice. Because in there it says, our legal right to ask for information, and it gives the actual code section, the Internal Revenue Code, and the regulations. They, meaning those sections, say that you must file a return or statement with us for any tax you are liable for. So I didn't put this together, that's the IRS's instruction booklet and the notice that they're required to publish to inform you of what your duties are with regard to the income tax, or any tax for that matter. As far as the 16th Amendment issue, I've seen the evidence. It was fraudulently ratified. There's links at my website. You can find out more about that. The fact that it was or wasn't ratified, the courts have basically punted. They don't want to deal with it. They don't want you coming to them and saying, hey, the 16th Amendment was never even ratified. I don't know this tax. They're tired of hearing that. But nevertheless, it's the truth. And I invite you to look into how this income tax has been a bastard child since 1913. But okay, it was still ratified. You know, we're not going to look at all the evidence. Well, the Supreme Court has ruled over and over again that the 16th Amendment provides no new power of taxation. Now, this is another thing that the IRS will lie to you about. Oh, we've got the 16th Amendment, and that gave us carte blanche to just tax everything. And you know, as far as I've been able to find out, that's a lie. 16th Amendment does not extend the taxing power to new or accepted subjects. In Supreme Court cases, as repeatedly held, 16th Amendment does not extend the taxing power to new subjects. And then most Americans don't even have income, because that term is defined over and over again by the Supreme Court. What is income? It's the gains derived from capital, from labor, from both combined.
Right.
Supreme Court case, a gain, a profit, something exchangeable, proceeding from the property, severed from the capital, being derived, that is received or drawn by the recipient for his separate use. When you go to work and you trade 8 hours of your time for 8 hours of pay, that's not what's happening here. Let's see how I'm doing on time. Well, now another interesting thing that I found was that within the IRS, there's actually 2 criminal investigation departments. I think one would have been enough. I don't know about you.
Okay.
But this is a window into their fraud. Now, I worked for the IRS Criminal Investigation Division, but there's another department called Criminal Investigation without the division on the end. Now, you are not going to be able to see this, and I'm sorry, but I can only expand it so much for the presentation. But this is an IRS flowchart. You can at least see that there's no little line going elsewhere, like to another page. This is it. This is the entire IRS. So in this, there's an assistant commissioner, there's some assistant commissioners. Let me see if I can show you that. So you have Assistant Commissioner Collection, Assistant Commissioner Criminal Investigation, Employee Plans of Exempt Organizations, Examination. I can't read those other two very well. But anyway, you get the idea. There's an Assistant Commissioner underneath the Deputy Commissioner that has all these departments underneath. Makes sense, right? Typical organization, you've got the different people that oversee different departments. Here, I made it a little bigger here. Collection, criminal investigation. These are copies I made before I left. So they've been duplicated a few times, but those are all the assistant commissioners. So, underneath the Assistant Commissioner International, so here's the guy or gal at the top, then you have these sub-departments, and then underneath Service and Compliance, you have the Examination Division, those are the auditors. You got the Collection Division, those are the guys and gals who go after your bank accounts, put liens on your house. Criminal Investigation Division, and Taxpayer Service Division. These are underneath the Assistant Commissioner International. Now there's some narrative sections of something called the Internal Revenue Manual. That's kind of the Bible that the IRS uses to do its procedures, to carry out the federal laws. So look at this. This is Criminal Investigation Division. This is the description of what they do. That's the division that I work for, and I'll show you some of my employee documents to prove it. Criminal Investigative Division enforces criminal statutes applicable to income, estate, gift, employment, and excise tax laws, as well as applicable Title 31 and Title 18 violations for the IRM involving United States citizens residing in foreign countries and non-resident aliens subject to federal income tax filing requirements. You get a job over in Europe or Saudi Arabia or wherever, then you come into the purview of the federal income tax system. But if you're Joe Banister, living and working in Nevada, and you look for the laws that require you to pay income tax, there's a lot of laws there, but there's not something that actually embraces the average American living here and working here. And the IRS's own internal documents that I copied myself before I left confirm that premise. So that's what the Criminal Investigation Division is responsible for. Now remember I told you there's a second Criminal Investigation Department. Everybody following along? Okay, I know this is kind of conveying these little things. 50-minute presentation is not exactly easy, but I don't want to bore you either. So now I'm going to go through quickly just the other is Criminal Investigation Department. Remember there were all the assistant commissioners. So under the Deputy Commissioner Operations, you've got these Assistant Commissioners, and then remember, you've got this Assistant Commissioner Criminal Investigation. That's separate from the Assistant Commissioner International. Remember how I showed you where the Criminal Investigation Division was under the Assistant Commissioner for International. But we also have an Assistant Commissioner for Criminal Investigation. Now look at the detail for these guys and gals. Well, here I'm comparing. But accomplishes the criminal investigation mission of enforcement. They don't say they enforce it, they say they accomplish the mission of enforcement of the criminal statutes applicable to income, state, gift, employment, excise taxes, guidance and assistance through planned periodic visitation programs, nationwide programs for the investigation of suspected criminal violations, 50% ad valorem tax. What it's basically saying is that they do studies and they create statistics, and they don't actually reach out and grab you and put the cuffs on you. They don't do that kind of enforcement. Now, I worked for, I may not be able to get through this. What I did here is to try to put it in where you can see it a little better. Assistant Commissioner International, Assistant Commissioner Criminal Investigation. Under the Assistant Commissioner International, there is a Criminal Investigation Division. In the division, see the powerful wording here. It enforces the criminal statutes applicable to income, state, employment involving United States citizens residing in foreign countries and non-resident aliens. Blah, blah, blah. Now, under the Assistant Commissioner of Criminal Investigation, there it is. It says this: the criminal investigation mission is to foster voluntary compliance and ensure public confidence through the effective enforcement of criminal statutes relative to the tax administration and financial crimes. So, it gives you a little idea about why they have two different departments that are doing criminal investigation functions. So this is some of my personnel paperwork. This is one of my promotions. And you can see right here, Internal Revenue Service, Western Region, Central California District, Criminal Investigation Division. So here I am working in San Jose, California, investigating people in the Bay Area, in the United States, Atlanta, different places, Arizona, different places my investigation took me. But according to the IRS manual, which I didn't know to look at, because there's so many tens of thousands of pages of stuff until somebody turns you onto it, come to find out that their own Bible, the IRS's own internal manual, says that I should only be focusing on Americans who are working or living abroad, not here in the country. Now, for somebody who took an oath to support an independent constitution, you might see that presents a little bit of a problem for me. Well, I just thought this was an interesting quote from Lowell Weicker. He was a U.S. Senator and an attorney as well. I want to make the statement here just so we all understand the ground on which we stand. The IRS is not a law enforcement agency. It is a revenue collection agency. And also the definition of law enforcement officer in the federal regulations, an IRS special agent is not among the law enforcement officers. These are things that the Congress and the Secretary of the Treasury and the IRS put out, not me. So anyway, I find this a treasure trove of information that gave me a lot of heartache, because it was like, wow, I wasn't expecting to find information that actually showed that the agency where I work and the system, the income tax system that I basically wrapped my entire professional life around, actually has some serious questions about the way that it's administered and enforced. So after I got that letter that I showed you earlier, the memorandum saying we're not going to respond to you, hey, hit the road, because we're kind of done here. They sent me home for a week on administrative leave. They took my firearm and my badge. And I kept my pager, and they said, don't call us, we'll call you, and then in a week, come back and tell us what you want to do. So they didn't fire me, but they, removed me from all duties, and I sat at home and thought, well, I can see that this agency isn't going to be square with me. So I guess I had no choice but to resign. And frankly, the people that I worked with in the San Jose office, I didn't feel that they would, plant marijuana in my desk or do anything like that, but I really didn't trust the agency as a whole too much. So I thought it might be best to resign with my reputation intact. So Charles Rosati was the commissioner at the time. Based on the obvious futility of continuing to work for an agency that its standards and practices so different from what it professes, and standards and practices so contrary to my own, and officially resigned from the position of IRS Criminal Investigation Division Special Agent, effective as of the date of this letter. And it's interesting that I resigned on February 25th, 1999. I was born on February 25th, 1963. And 50 years before that, February 25th, 1913, was the year that the 16th Amendment was proclaimed to be ratified. So, you know, my family used to say, why do you kind of bother with this, you know? I'm like, well, I don't know. I just share the same stinking birthday. So, what am I going to do? So, I did have to part company. I did resign on February 25th, 1999 from the IRS, way back in the last century. And this was when the internet was really taking off, and there, you know, a lot more interest in things that the mainstream media wouldn't tell you about. And so my story got coverage on MSNBC, CNBC, C-SPAN, articles in the New York Times, and there were even full-page ads in the USA Today. These are a couple of other IRS agents that we've kind of resigned or started to speak up around the same time. We also tried to get a hearing before Congress on these issues. So it wasn't like we were just hiding, like, oh, you know, we have all this evidence, but we don't want you to see it. With the work of the We the People Foundation, headed up by Robert Schultz, we put together all the questions and all the evidence, and we actually got Congressman Roscoe Bartlett to assist us in securing a hearing in Congress about these issues related to income tax. And the Department of Justice, this is a handwriting from, I forget what his name is, I'm sorry, Dan somebody. But anyway, the Department of Justice, a high-level attorney, who agreed in writing to participate in this hearing. And the IRS agreed verbally to participate. They wouldn't put anything in writing, but there was agreement from both agencies. Oh, Dan Bryant, that was the name of the DOJ attorney. So we were going to have this hearing in Washington, D.C., and the problem is that the hearing was supposed to occur beginning of September of 2001. So you know what happened on September 11th, 2001? And I'm not saying that that's related, but I'm just saying that there was obviously a lot of other things that came onto the plate of everyone, and so all of our efforts kind of went by the wayside, and by Thanksgiving of 2001, the Department of Justice had backed out, the IRS backed out of their oral agreement, and Roscoe Bartlett backed out. So we have a lot of spineless people back there. Anyway, the IRS is getting a little bit tired of Joe Banister and his buddies going back there and trying to get questions answered. And so they decided that it was time to indict me, along with a client. And my share of all that was 3 counts of preparing a false federal income tax return and 1 count of conspiring to defraud the United States of America. So I was busy from 1999 forward trying to just get answers, trying to talk to people who are supposed to be in power and supposed to be able to do something about this. I'm pretty sure they all took the same oath that I did, but I don't think they remember it very well. So I was busy doing that. They were busy putting a criminal case against me. This was in November of 2004. They really made a big deal in the press. Very nasty with the press release. You know, I didn't even have a trial yet, but blatant and far-reaching defrauding of honest taxpayers by these 2 individuals. Joe Banister, a former IRS agent, knew exactly what he was doing. Tax professionals who break the law will be held accountable. Get the commissioner chiming in on my indictment. So as I said, 3 counts of preparing false income tax return and conspiracy. Well, unfortunately for the IRS, they trained me too well. Of course, when you get indicted, you better think about how you're going to defend yourself. So my attorney, Jeffrey Dickstein, he said, well, send me your research. So he was in Milwaukee, Wisconsin at the time. I was in San Jose, California. And so I bought stock in FedEx and then shipped it. So lots of dirty tricks that the government will try. That's why I don't, I'm not here as a cheerleader. Hey, take on the IRS one-on-one. I mean, I do think we need to do something more than we're doing. But anyway, the prosecution tried to disqualify one of my two defense attorneys before trial. A 28-year veteran IRS agent could not point out anything false in those tax returns that they indicted me and said that they were false. And that's under cross-examination or direct examination. Direct examination, he's an IRS agent, the prosecutor's asking him questions, he can't find anything false. Then my attorney gets up and cross-examines him, can't point to anything false. Witness after witness said that they observed no conspiracy between me and the client. The prosecution brought forward no evidence of the existence of a conspiracy. Case investigator testified. I used to work with the case investigator before I resigned. They encountered no evidence that the IRS was impeded, impaired, or obstructed. And that's what I was accused of conspiring to do. So the elements of the crime weren't even there. And anybody that's done any investigation, if you get to the end of the investigation and you don't find that the elements of the crime have been met, you don't go to the prosecutor and then recommend prosecution, do you? So if you're talking about one of theirs who decides to ask a few questions, they're going to go a different pathway. Not one juror even voted for conviction during the deliberation and polling. And I know this from talking to the jurors after the trial. One of the two prosecutors did not even show up.
Oh my God.
And the verdict was not guilty on all 4 counts. That was in Sacramento.
Did they have to pay for the trial?
Did
they have to pay their attorneys and?
Oh no. Thanks to donations from all over the country, the defense effort was between $200,000 and $230,000.
Oh my goodness.
And it was pretty much funded with donations.
Oh my God.
And what I had to give up was about 7 months from November when I was indicted until June when my trial was. 7 months of not working, except this was my full-time job defending myself against charges of I'm a little biased, but they were completely bunk.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of thing they'll try to do to shut you up. Now, remember I said that the media was a big splash when I got indicted. Well, when I was acquitted, this is what the Sacramento So you can always depend on the mainstream media to do the right thing. So the bottom line, the federal government is deceiving the American public about their income tax obligations, resulting in trillions of dollars of tax paid through deceit, intimidation, and where necessary, illegal force, hundreds of billions, if not trillions of dollars worth of property taken illegally. I encourage you to educate yourself. Plenty of free information at truth-attack.com. And one of our websites is agentfortruth.com. I always encourage people to look before you leap. Don't take on the IRS one-on-one. Educate yourself. There's lots of ways you can educate yourself free of charge. There are trustworthy people out there who can help you educate yourself. And at that point, really, that's my advocacy, is to educate yourself. And some portion of you are going to serve on a jury. Or people that you talk about this issue to are going to serve on a jury. And somewhere along the way, there's got to be a juror that needs to know this information and won't send an innocent man or woman to prison. As you might know, the media and the government love to demonize law-abiding citizens who don't assert their rights. Of course, I advocate the spiritual toolbox, pray frequently, asking God to heal and bless our country, obey the commandments, especially refrain from taking the Lord's name in vain, be a good example to your fellow Americans. Watch your back and your wallet. You already know that. This is a little bit old. Everybody knows who Lois Lerner is, right? So there's a big bureaucracy out there to get you, to try to trick you up. So just, I'm not saying be a wallflower and don't do anything, just be careful. And, the more people we gather to the cause of the truth and having our government obey the law, the better for all of us.
Our Tea Party has a direct connection with Lois.
With who? What was Lois?
Lois, yes. We talk to her office about once a month.
Connection with Lois Lerner, so you can
And
talk to the lady
I'm
there.
being good. I have not sworn yet.
Good for you. All right, so I don't know if you've seen this. You might be labeled a terrorist if you support an unanointed political candidate, if you use cash, if you enjoy certain movies. How many people have heard of America Freedom to Fascism?
Yes.
You? Okay, those who haven't, I really recommend watching that on the internet or getting the DVD. I don't get money from it, but the documentary, I'm featured in it, a number of people are featured in it, where we're trying to get to the truth about the income tax and various other issues. But if you watch a movie like that, you could get on a list. So I suggest we all get on the list, and then it wouldn't matter. Just talking about the MIAC report, MIAC, if anyone hasn't heard about that, you might want to look that up if you're taking notes. Watch out if you've got a Ron Paul bumper sticker on your car. Or just put, 10 bumper stickers on. I'm sorry?
The one with Ron Paul and
Right here? Yeah, in the MIAC report, they actually mentioned Ron Paul, Chuck Baldwin, and Bob Barr by name as militia-influenced terrorists. So believe me, they love to badmouth the people who won't take a look to see if you're really bad, and hope that you'll get in trouble just because the enforcement person thought you were a bad guy or a bad girl. I thought this was interesting. Of course, there's a whole list of religious extremism. I'm a Roman Catholic, so I'm right there in the middle. But at least I'm lower than Hamas. So in closing, I have a radio show that Chris mentioned. It's on at 10 a.m. Pacific, and it's on truthfrequencyradio.com. It's called the Agent for Truth radio show. So there's my website, agentfortruth.com. I also passed out those little info cards with my picture on it. So please take those and spread them around. There's no RFID chips in the card.
Does it have archives of previous? Like if you can't listen on Saturday or something, and you want to listen to it Monday?
There are the question was, are the radio shows archived? They're archived, I think, for 7 days, and then they go away. You have to be a member. So if you want to grab it right after the broadcast, you can download it. But if you wait too long, freedomaboufortune.com. That was my original website, still up and running. josephbannister.com. And there's a lot of really good, solid legal information at truth-attack.com. There's a section in that website called Law Library. And that's it.